live, then we're going to be live. So we're to need to start.
Okay.
It's going to go. So give me
I think we are on YouTube, right?
it's live now.
Streaming. Yeah.
So good. That's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I guess we could let people in. I'll just let people in, and we'll go live on. Yeah, I think it's only letting me go live on one channel. It's not letting me go live on
Oh,
Facebook too.
that's fine for this time.
And how are you, Isaac?
Fine, fine, fine. Michael,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. I salute you. I salute you.
We're going to, we'll have everyone's video and audio off for now until we go into our question and answer period. Okay. So, and then we'll, you guys can turn your videos and audios on at that time. Okay, Farooq. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll try to keep this to an hour or less.
Sure.
Okay. And once we're done, I'll do that first half. You'll do the other part as we talked about, and then we'll take some questions. If you can also pull up the YouTube live, but turn the speaker off so it doesn't interfere, so that you can monitor any questions that people might have over there. Just make sure that you turn the speaker off.
All right. Sounds good.
Let me make sure that I'm recording this, even though we'll have recording on YouTube. Yeah, very good. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This is a training that we did not too long ago in our virtual speech masters, and we'll talk about that a little later because it's a really, really cool and helpful resource for all of you that are watching. Think of it like a supercharged virtual Toastmasters. And again, we'll talk about that a little later, but there are some huge benefits to joining Speech Masters Club. We will share those benefits with you in between and towards the end. But today, we want to talk to you about something that each and every one of us has to deal with and often struggle with on a daily basis. The vast majority of everything we do is a habit, our habits. Almost everything we do, a lot of what we do are habits. Just think about when you walk, how you walk, when you go up and down stairs, when you go to your bathroom, you put on your shoes or tie your shoes, when you drive a car, ride a bike, the way that you speak, the way that you think. These are all habits. These are things that you and I, for the most part, no longer have to think about. When we're speaking, what we do have to think about sometimes is the content, right? What we want to say. But everything else is a habit. Now, that's a good thing and it can be a bad thing. The reason that it can be bad or negative is when you have habits that don't serve you, right? When you have speaking, thinking, and feeling habits that are not helpful. We have a client and he's going to be graduating soon, actually. His name is Shaq. And in our virtual speech masters club meeting, he shared a very, very good example. And in fact, what I'm going to do is just have Farooq share that example. And let me just set this up. So let's just say that you have a meeting, presentation, interview, could even be a social event coming up. What are some things that people tend to do? What are some things that people tend to think about prior to that presentation, meeting, interview, or social event? So Farooq, share with us a couple of things that people tend to do automatically when they have these kinds of things coming.
All right. So, first of all, hi to all of you. It's really wonderful to see everybody right here on Zoom, on YouTube, and everywhere. So, yeah, speaking about that, as Michael spoke about habits, so it's all a part of your habits, not just speaking, but your mindset as well. How you think about yourself as a speaker, how you think about speaking situations, all of those are habits. So, whenever you know that you have a speaking situation ahead of you, it can be a meeting, it can be an interview, it can be a presentation, or whatever it is, now you automatically start to worry about it. You start to anticipate it. I'm going to have a hard time. I'm going to get stuck. I'm going to mess up. So, all of these thoughts start to run in your head. And this is automatic. Since you have been thinking in this way for such a long time, that now it happens automatically. Whenever you're going into such a speaking situation, whether low pressure, whether high pressure, especially let's say high pressure, your mind immediately looks back for how did I do in previous situations like this? How did I think? How I spoke? All of that. So it goes out and looks for it in the past. And when it knows that you have been anxious about it, you have worried about it in the past, that is exactly what it starts to do. It starts to worry about it. And then that worry starts to creep into your speech, you start to mess up, and all of that. So the first part is to really, that Michael would talk about now, be aware of it. You can't change a habit, you can't tweak a habit if you're not even aware that you're doing it. Sometimes it might sound simple that we know it, we are aware of it, obviously, but sometimes or most of the times you're not. You have just been doing it out of habit, you have been thinking and speaking out of habit that you sometimes don't even know that you're doing. So you have to be aware about it.
Very good. So one of the things that happens in what we call the habit loop, hopefully you can see this. You can see this okay, Farouk, right? Okay.
Yeah.
It's called the habit loop. You guys can do some research on that. There's many, many books out there, great books on habits. And that's what Farouk basically talked about. Something is about to happen. Could be a conversation, could be that you're going to order coffee. So just by having the intention, thinking about, I'm going to go order coffee. I have a meeting today. I have a Zoom meeting. I have to give an update. As soon as you think about that, what happens is we call that a cue, right? So think of it like a trigger. Think of it like a trigger. And so this event is a trigger. And what does it trigger? It triggers a routine. And routine is a pattern of behavior, habits, right? So for some of you, that routine is going to be, as Ruth said, worrying, feeling anxious, getting nervous. For others of you, this routine may be avoidant. You actually start to avoid or figure out ways to avoid the meeting, or to think about how quickly you can say it, right? How quickly you can get through it. So this is one part of the routine. Now, another part of the routine is when you actually have to speak. When you actually have to speak. When you have to speak, what's the routine there? Well, if you've had previous negative experiences, like you've gotten stuck, you haven't been able to give your name, you haven't been able to say what you want to say in that moment, your heart starts pounding, any of those things and more. When that starts to happen, as we said, it happens automatically. It's a routine that was queued up by that event. And now this routine is running. Think of it like a program. It's pretty much exactly what it is. It's a program. It's an unconscious program that consists of your experiences, that consists of your attitudes, your beliefs, your self-image, your your self-esteem, like all of those things kind of combine to help create that routine. So then you have trouble introducing yourself or saying your name, saying whatever it is. That's the routine part of it, the challenge. So there's at least two parts to the routine, at least two. Really, we could say three. One are the thoughts that you have, sometimes even before you actually start to speak, before you open your mouth, you have these thoughts. You also have feelings. There are feelings and there are emotions. So you have physical feelings, right? And then you have emotions that you start to feel. This is all part of the routine. And then the other part is the actual speech itself, the speech itself. Now, this next part is called the reward. So the reward happens, if you want to think about it this way. Let's look at this on the positive side. If you do something that you enjoy, let's just say it's eating a certain type of food, chocolate, ice cream, whatever you might like, drinking coffee. So the cue might be getting up in the morning. As soon as you get up in the morning, you have this craving to get your cup of coffee. So then you automatically enter into a routine where you go, you fix your coffee, just kind of happens automatically. You drink the coffee, right? That's also part of the routine. And then you feel the satisfaction. You feel relaxed, you're ready to go, right? That's the reward. Well, what's the reward then when you do something that's negative or destructive, not necessarily good for you? Well, if it's drugs or if it's something that's fattening, your body also experiences a reward. It kind of feels good that you did it, even though it may hurt you later or it may hurt you right then. When it comes to speech, it's a little trickier. Sometimes the reward can be, aha, I knew I was going to get stuck. It can just be the satisfaction of fulfilling kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of something happening that you knew you were going to happen, that you knew it's going to happen, something that's been happening all the time. It's actually reinforcing a part of your identity. This is who I am. I tend to struggle, I tend to, or I would speak too fast. And so whenever something happens that affirms that, you actually receive a reward, right? It actually feels like, oh, this is who I am. This is normal. Something that we can call homeostasis. It's kind of what's normal. It's uncomfortable comfortability. You're feeling uncomfortable doing something that you're used to doing, that you're actually comfortable doing. You're feeling uncomfortable um, doing something that's been a habit for you, that's been natural. Okay. So the reward is that, aha, this always happens to me. I knew this was going to happen. Now, here's where we're going to get into some of the meat. And that is, which of these can you usually change? Which of these can you change? Because in order to change a habit, a better word than change, you will hear us use this, is replace. We're really not trying to change a habit. We're actually trying to replace it with something better. We don't really want to spend time focusing on this negative thing, how to stop it, how to change it. What we want to do is replace it with something better. Okay. So, which of these can we change or replace? Well, yes, you can change or replace a cue, but often you can't. Sometimes you can, but often you can't. So, for example, you can change the cue of thinking about going to order coffee, or you can change the cue of thinking about your meeting. But if you have to attend that meeting, you can't change that meeting. You can't change the fact that the meeting is there and you need to attend. You can change, however, how you think about that meeting and what you think about it. So that thing you can change. But you have to go to the meeting. When you want to go get coffee, you can avoid going to get coffee, so you can change that. But what if you really want to get coffee? So that's an external environmental factor that you can change, but you probably won't. So there's some things that you're not going to change for whatever reasons. Those are cues. But remember, one of the cues that you can change is how you think about it. Okay. Let's go to the routine. Can you change the routine? Can you replace the routine with a new one? Absolutely. That's something that's under your control. So there are things that you can do, and we'll use some specific examples in terms of slowing down, for example. There are things that you can do to change your routine, how you speak, what you do when you're speaking. You can also change what you're thinking while you're speaking. You may not be able to change how you're feeling when you're speaking. So your heart may be pumping, you may feel anxious, and you may not be able to change that right then and there. You might be able to change it 2 minutes or 3 minutes later, but you might not be able to change it in that moment. But there are some things you can do to change it, again, a minute later, or whatever. We'll talk about that. So there's a routine. You can change this. What about the reward? Well, that one can be a little more difficult. You can change the reward in the sense that you can reward yourself, or you can celebrate when you do something right, when you do something well. You can not reflect back on when you hit a bump in the road or when you make a mistake. You cannot say, this is what I always do. Oh, I just did this. And then you start to ruminate about it, just start thinking about it. You can change the reward part by not doing that and replacing that with another behavior, another thought process. But the easiest thing to change is going to be the routine, right? So let's talk about a couple of things that you can do to change the routine with regards to speaking. We're going to talk about slowing down. If you want to slow your speech down and you want to start breathing more and slowing down. And slowing down. These are the two things that Farooq and I found that have helped the most people the fastest is breathing, breath, breathing, slowing down. Slowing down. So let's just say that you want to do this. Well, the first thing, like Farooq said, that you have to do is become aware of what you're doing, what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and what that routine is. So when you start to speak, you have to be aware of, number one, that you're speaking. Sometimes you don't even realize that you're speaking because it's automatic, right? Like walking, you don't realize that you're walking, but you know that you are. So you have to be aware. Then you have to know how you want to speak, or you have to know what it is that you want to do when you're speaking. So this is how you replace it. So for example, you want to remind yourself to breathe, to pause, to take a breath, and to slow your speech down, perhaps by extending your words, right? So this is something very specific that you have control over. You have control over your breath. You can breathe. When someone's hyperventilating, where they have to breathe. So you can breathe no matter how you're feeling. Unless you've fallen out, you're still breathing. But if you're still conscious, you can take deeper breaths and more frequent breaths, no matter how you're feeling. I want you to get that. No matter how you're feeling, you can breathe. What's the next thing that you can do? You can slow your speech down. If you're aware, you have to be aware. And remember, when you start to speak, what tends to happen is people tend to go into automatic mode and they tend to not think about how they want to speak. They just start thinking about content or the things that are going on around. In fact, let me just give you some distractors that people tend to think about when they're speaking. If I can find this, because we're going to talk about this briefly in a moment here too. But these are the three things that people tend to be distracted by in a variety of speaking situations. One is the pressure to perform. I have to speak like this. I have to say the right thing. I have to do this. Second is a fear of failure. Hope I don't mess up. I hope I don't do this. Here for pressure to perform, I hope I'm able to say my name, or I hope I'm able to articulate my thoughts clearly. Here, hope I don't mess up trying to say my name or articulate my thoughts or get stuck or speak too fast or whatever. And then finally, the fear of judgment. What are people going to think about me? What are they thinking about? Especially if there's people in authority there. What are they thinking about? How's that going to affect my relationship? How's that going to affect my job and income, career, so forth and so on. So these are the three major things that people get distracted by, right? So first you become aware that you're speaking, you become aware how you're feeling, you become aware of how you're speaking, that you're speaking and how you're speaking. Then you have to tell yourself to breathe. I need to breathe more. I need to breathe more frequently. I need to breathe deeper. Because when you breathe, at least a couple of things happen. You start to slow your heart rate down. You tap into your parasympathetic nervous system, which begins to slow your heart rate down, and it begins to help you gain more control. And number two, it helps you to think more clearly. So when the fight or flight instinct takes over, you start to lose access to your prefrontal cortex, to your thinking brain. That's why people go cloudy. When you get anxious and nervous, you all of a sudden start to forget things that you want to say. You get cloudy, or let's say you've been practicing, you've been working on slowing down, speaking slow, but all of a sudden you're in a certain speaking situation, as people say, it goes out the window. Everything you practice goes out the window. So you have to be aware what's going on. And then you have to train yourself to breathe so you can relax and keep access to your knowledge, keep access to your prefrontal cortex. The next thing that you have to do that you can do is slow your speech down. Slow your speech down by extending your words more, especially in the beginning, and by pausing more. By pausing more. So there's something I want to mention real quick here. I think it's a few pages back. Something I want to mention here, very, very interesting. And some people think that this is not true. See if I can find this. Yeah. So here, when you're speaking, a lot of people think, you know what? I don't have enough capacity to be thinking about how I'm speaking. Right. I just can't do it. I have to think about what I'm saying. And you're also getting distracted by those other three things, by the pressure to perform, by the fear of failure, by the fear of judgment. You're being distracted by those things. So you feel like you don't have enough capacity to do what? To think about how you're speaking, to control your speech in the moment. Fact is, and I'll explain this to you briefly, we have what's called a cognitive load. These are the resources that your brain is using to speak, to think about what you want to say, right? To think about the content and to think about the things like audience feedback. What's the audience doing? Paying attention to that. We also call this parallel processing, where you're thinking about what you want to say, and at the same time, you're able to think about some other things. Cognitive load, this is the These are the resources that your brain uses to speak. Cognitive reserves is the capacity that you have left over. Everyone has cognitive reserves, meaning you have capacity left over even while you are speaking, while you're thinking about what you want to say. You can also think about something else. You can also tell yourself to do something else. You can do this while you're speaking, parallel processing, right? Now, the more you speak, the better you speak, the more you're able to speak without having to devote a lot of resources to the content. Like right now, the content's up there. I'm not having to think specifically about what I'm saying. I know what I want to say. It's in there, so I can just say it. So I'm using less of a cognitive load. The cognitive breathing space, or the pause, that's where, like I just took a pause, that's when I could take a breath. That's when I could, if I needed to, tell myself to relax, tell myself to slow down, just in that little pause right there. Right? It's called cognitive breathing space. It's where you can breathe, it's where you can pause, and it's where you can give yourself the command to slow down, to breathe, to relax. So no one can say that they can't do it because you can do it while you're speaking and you can do it when you pause. Very, very important to realize that. Now, let's take a look at one other thing here that will help you in terms of focus. So, and Farooq will tell you a little bit about this as well, that the key here when you're speaking is where your focus is. If you're getting distracted by getting stuck, negative anticipation, by who's in the room, by what happened in the past, then you're probably going to get stuck. You're probably going to get stuck because you're going to cause yourself to become more anxious. But if you shift your focus somewhere else to, for example, breathing, to extending your words more, and to what we call Vic and Rick. We've done a lot on Vic and Rick, and it's a mental tool that can help you keep your focus where it needs to be. I'm going to run through this relatively quickly. First is the V and the R in Vic and Rick. Value. And remember, you have the capacity to think about these things kind of in the back of your mind while you're speaking. Am I talking about something? Am I giving this audience, could be an audience of one person, like an interview, could be in a meeting, am I giving them something of value that they need, that they want to know? Is this valuable for them? Is it valuable for me? Is it something that I need to say right? Is it relevant? Is it relevant to this discussion? Is it relevant to this meeting? Is it relevant to the question that they've asked? So value and relevancy. You can be asking yourself that while you're speaking. Is this really what I want to say right now? Right? You can say, you can do that. The second thing would be impact. Am I holding their attention? So you can become aware of, am I speaking monotone? Am I speaking monotone? Do I have enough energy? Am I using my body? Am I using body language? Right? You can become aware of that while you're speaking. And then the third one is clarity. Is what I'm saying clear? Two parts to clarity. One has to do with style, the other has to do with structure. So real quick, style, am I articulating so that they can understand what I'm saying? Am I speaking at a good pace where people can understand what I'm saying? Or am I speaking too fast? Am I speaking too slow where it's dragging and people are falling asleep and they're looking at their phones and talking to neighbors? Or am I speaking at a pace where I'm holding their attention? Am I modulating my voice so that I can hold their attention? Am I pausing so that they have time to digest the information, right? These are all proactive speaking skills that we teach in our program. So that's the style part of clarity. But the other part is structure. Is it logical? Can people follow what I'm saying? Or am I all over the place? Sometimes people go all over the place when they're either not knowledgeable or not as knowledgeable as they could be, or when they're anxious and nervous and they kind of don't know what they want to say and they're rambling on and they're forgetting about stuff. We have a whole program called the Ultimate Presentation System where we teach you how to present your thoughts and ideas in a logical manner. So this is what we call a positive distractor. So if you want to think about something, if you want to focus on something that will help you speak better, that will help you communicate better, that will help you speak smoother, there are a few things that you can do. Breathe. Remember to breathe before you start speaking. And in the pauses, need that breath. Some of you can hear me breathing perhaps now while I'm speaking because I need that power to speak effectively, to continue to access the knowledge in my reservoirs of knowledge. And then the next thing you can do is slow your speech down, especially in the beginning. Extend your words more, pause a little bit more in the beginning. What else can you do? Well, you can positively distract yourself by thinking about Vic and Rick. Is this valuable? Is this relevant to the conversation? Am I holding their attention with my speaking style? Am I clear? Am I clear? Right? And if you just think about these things, just think about it. What happens is you're focusing while you're speaking, you're focusing on things that are constructive, that are positive, that will help you speak well. We also talk about modeling. We won't go into that today, really. We'll talk about that, but that's another very, very powerful tool that you can use to help you speak better. Everyone can do it. That's the way you learn how to speak in the first place. So those are the things that you can do that essentially helps you replace this routine, right? This routine. You can do those things. You have control over those things. You have control over your thoughts. You have control over your breathing. You have control over your pacing. And if you have control over those things, you can replace your current speaking, thinking, and ultimately feeling routine pattern habit with a new one. Now, one of the keys is for you to do it in no to low pressure speaking situation. It's called muscle memory. In other words, the more you do it, the more your brain and the more your body remembers or memorizes how it's done. It's a little harder to practice it under pressure as the fight or flight mechanism. But it's very easy to do it, obviously, when you're by yourself, right? But you're also building muscle memory when you're by yourself. It's easy to do it when there's no pressure, when you're speaking to friends or family, if that's no pressure or low pressure. So no pressure, low pressure, even medium pressure. Every time you open your mouth, you want to be aware and you want to practice these things. Don't just say, oh, well, I'm with my family or friends. I don't feel like it. I don't need to. They don't care. I don't care, because that's the time when you actually need to practice it so that you get that muscle memory. So that when you need it in medium or high pressure, your brain and your body knows how to do it. If it doesn't know how to do it, it will go out the window. So you're asking, why is it every time I get in a meeting, I've been taking your course, I've been doing this, but I get in a meeting and it goes out the window? This is why. Because you probably haven't been using it consistently enough in no to low pressure speaking situations. If you use it all the time, the way our brains work, your brain will remember how to do it. And you will be able to do it more and more high pressure speaking situations. I hope that makes sense. Now, Farooq's going to talk about another very important aspect that you need to be aware of as you are creating, replacing these habits, but also think of this as skills. So speaking well and thinking constructively and positive are habits, they're patterns, and they're skills that you can learn. So Farouk's going to talk a bit about that.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And yeah, I was just having to check YouTube as well, and I was right here as well. So we have some people who are messaging us right there. We have some right here. So we'll keep a check. So yeah, as quite wonderfully explained by Michael, as a whole, in short, we are our habits. Like whatever we have done over and over again consciously, ultimately it becomes subconscious. It gets from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind. And here we are speaking about speaking, but it is a fact about everything. Whether you're learning a new skill, whether you're learning how to play the guitar, whether you're learning to sing, whether you're learning how to drive a car, whether you're learning to tie your shoelaces, whatever it is, whatever you are learning, at the start, you won't know how to do it. And you would need to consciously focus on it over and over again until it gets into your subconscious mind. When it gets into your subconscious mind, then your mind just knows how to do it. After that, you wouldn't need to focus on it. It would be happening on its own. So, our goal when we are working on our speech should be to repeat the new speaking habit, the new thinking habit, the new speaking style, new thinking style over and over again consciously until we know that it's subconscious now. It's happening on its own now. That's the main goal that we have to get to. But it would only happen by consciously repeating stuff over and over again. Now, why the brain forms habits? Brain forms habits because it is kind of lazy in a sense. It doesn't want to focus on every activity every single time. For example, when you're tying your shoelaces, your brain does not want to spend a whole lot of energy every time you tie your shoelaces. All right, first I have to do this, then do that, then I have to tie it in this way. It does not want to do it every time. So, what it does, it makes it a habit so that whenever you encounter that activity again, like tying your shoelaces, your brain goes back into the past, looks for how has it performed related to that activity in the past, and then it performs exactly in the same way. This way, it doesn't have to spend a lot of energy doing it. So you can kind of call it laziness in a sense. You can also call it smartness in a sense that our brain wants to form habits. Like Michael said, it is good for us, it is bad for us at the same time. It is bad for us because, for example, if you have been speaking in a disfluent way for such a long period of time, it's a habit now. It happens on its own. Right now, it's not good for you, it's bad for you. So you have to work on it, you have to change it. But it's good in a way because once you change it, once the new speaking style becomes automatic, once it becomes programmed into your mind, into your subconscious mind, it would be very hard to unprogram. So, if we could form habits in a day, in 4 days, it means that we could also lose habits in 2 days or 4 days. So, if you could learn how to use your new speaking style automatically within a day, you might also lose it after a day, right? So, the fact that it takes time is beneficial because it would last. It would last then. So, all of the work that you would be doing on your speech, as we are speaking about, it's going to last for your whole life. Right now, Michael is not focusing on something while he's speaking. I have to breathe, I have to slow down, I have to do this, I have to do that, because it is happening on its own from having focused on it for such a long period of time. Same is the case with me. I'm not focusing on how I'm speaking right now. I worked on my speech with this speech system for such a long time that now my brain, my mind just knows how to do it. So that's how it goes. So moving towards the next thing, that is basically the 4 stages of learning. And it's very simple. And that's how you learn something, not just speaking, but as I said, everything you learn goes by these 4 stages. So if you talk about the first stage, that is called unconscious incompetence. Now, these are the 4 stages of learning, as I said. First stage, unconscious incompetence. It means that you don't even know that you don't know, right? So, for example, you have been speaking in your old speaking style for such a long period of time that you don't even know what a new speaking style is for you or what a new speaking style could be for you. So, that is called unconscious incompetence. that you don't even know that you are incompetent, right? What's the next stage? The next stage is called conscious incompetence. So, for example, you jumped onto Michael's YouTube channel, you watched a few videos, you watched about his videos on changing your speaking style, all of that. So now you watch that, now you see that, now you know that there is also a new speaking style that I can learn. Now you are consciously incompetent at it. In the first stage, you were unconsciously incompetent. You did not even know that you could change your speech, that there is a new speaking style. Now you know that, competent at that new speaking style. So that is called conscious incompetence. Now, the next stage is conscious competence. What does that mean? Conscious competence is simply now you see what the new speaking style is, you learn what the new speaking style is. Now, as we spoke about the fact, you consciously repeat it over and over again, right? So now you are consciously trying to develop competence. Look at it in this way. It's called conscious competence. It's not automatic. If you just go out there, speak without focusing on the new speaking style, your brain, your mind would still speak using that old speaking style because that is in your subconscious mind right now. So you're not competent at it subconsciously, you're having to consciously be competent at it. You keep doing it over and over again. You keep repeating it over and over again. You keep the neurons related to your new speaking style firing over and over again. So now that is a stage which is called as conscious competence. Now, the next stage, last but really not the least, is unconscious incompetence. Unconscious competence. Sorry, sometimes it gets a bit confusing. So it's called unconscious competence. Now, you repeated that habit over and over again. In this case, let's say we're speaking about breathing and slowing down, modeling, using your new speaking style. You kept repeating the stuff over and over again consciously that now the brain has pushed it to the subconscious mind. Now you subconsciously know how to do it. Now you don't have to focus on it. That is where you know that it's in your subconscious mind. It has become automatic. And this stage is called unconscious competence, that you don't even have to focus on it and you're still doing it. Just like the case of learning how to drive. The first few times you would go out there, it would be really hard. You would have to focus on the brake, you would have to focus on the accelerator. I have a car moving from the right side, from the left side, I have to look at the mirror, this, that. But now when you learn how to do it, you won't even need to focus on it. You would be focusing on something else, maybe what you need to do the next day, what you did the previous day, your work, your hobbies, and your hands, your feet would be doing the work on its own, right? So that is not just how you learn speaking or a new speaking style, but everything. So it's really, really important to make sure that you get it into your subconscious mind. That is where that myelin wraps the axon, right? That is where those neurons, which kept firing together, now finally wire together. The signal becomes faster, and it is very easy for you to use your new speaking style. In fact, you don't even need to focus on it, right? So, for example, like we talked about breathing, slowing down, it's not that you would go out there once and you have been a really fast speaker, right at the instant you would focus on slowing down and done. No, you would focus on slowing down, but the next moment you would be speaking fast. You would start to rush. Then you would need to focus on slowing down, breathing, and slowing down once again. Then your mind would go back to speaking fast. Why? Because of that old habit. Then you would need to get back. So you would have to keep reminding yourself before a speaking situation, even while you're speaking over and over and over and over again, maybe 40 times, 50 times, 60 times, because you're having to change a habit that you have been following, that you have been using for a very long time. You have to give it sometime. That conscious focus has to be there. The first step, as Michael talked about, you have to be aware. All right, I'm speaking fast. I'm doing this. I'm being anxious. Then you need to consciously change it, breathing and slowing down, for example. So you would need to keep doing it over and over again. And ultimately, you would find out that after a few months, after a few days, whatever it takes you, that then your mind would just know how to slow down. It would know how to breathe and slow down. It would know how to speak smoothly. You won't need to focus on it, right? So that's how it goes. So most of the people ask that. I have heard many clients ask that how much time it takes for it to become automatic. All right, we are working on our speech. Now, how much time would it take us for it to become automatic? Once again, not only with speaking, with whatever you're learning, it basically takes around from 18, like anywhere from 18 to 256 days for something to become a habit, for something to be automatic, with the average lying around something around 3 to 4 months, right? And I also mentioned it in the virtual speech masters meeting once Michael told me that that's the reason he named it the Pro 90D speech system, that is proactive speaking in 90 days. Now, 90 days is somewhere around the time where it starts to become automatic, where you find that, all right, I'm going out to speak and I'm using my new speaking style. It's happening on its own. So that is how long it usually takes. It can take you sooner, it can take you later, but you have to make sure that you keep doing it over and over again. It's not that you do it one day, you work on your speech, you work for a week, then and then you work again, then you leave off for a month, then you do again. So you're not giving yourself that momentum. You're not firing those neurons that you need to wire together, right? So it should be consistent repetition over time until it becomes automatic. If you keep doing the work consistently, it can take you around 90 to 120 days for you to see that it is starting to become automatic now. And that feels really good once you know that I'm speaking well without even having to focus on it. So that is what I had to add, Michael, about habits. I think you're on mute, Michael.
Okay. Yes, thank you. That was wonderful. I wanted to just add a couple of things, some obstacles that you will run into as you're doing this. You're going to run into, number one, resistance. You're going to run into physical resistance and mental or psychological resistance, which includes emotion. Well, Michael, what do you mean when you say resistance? Okay. This can be anything from feeling tired and not wanting to do it because the firing and wiring that Farooq talked about is called Hebb's law. And any new habit, any new pattern of thinking, anything new that you want to do requires your brain. And in order for your brain to control that behavior or to implement that behavior, it needs to have those neurons wired together that represents that behavior. Anything, playing the piano, walking, talking, driving, anything, you're going to have a group, a network of neurons in different parts of your brain that control that behavior. Absolutely, right? The problem is that when it's not really a problem, it's an advantage and it can be a disadvantage. During that firing and wiring process, it's your brain will be using more energy, like Farouk said, and that energy feels to you like resistance. It makes you feel tired. You feel mentally and physically drained. You actually are you're burning more calories, right? You're literally burning more energy. And so you get to a place where you deplete your willpower, your ability to consciously say, I'm going to breathe more. I'm going to think this way. I'm going to speak this way. As you go through your day, and if you are thinking that way and you're reminding yourself to do it, and you're in meetings and you're having to deal with what people are saying and think about the content, you're actually using up a lot of your energy. And so you will start to feel more tired and more resistance. Sometimes by the middle of the day or the end of the day, you just won't feel like trying to think about how you're speaking. You don't have as much willpower. You can recharge your willpower through rest and through certain kinds of foods that you can eat, right? Some sugars, you can recharge your willpower. Sometimes it's temporary, sometimes it's long term, but you will feel resistance. What about psychological resistance? You'll start to justify why you don't need to or why you can't use your new speaking style. Oh, well, I'm in this meeting. I have to think about what I need to say. I just don't have the time to slow my speech down. But you can, and you do have the time, right? You actually can. And we just talked about, like, scientifically, why you actually do have the time and why you must. If you actually want to change your speech, you have to. But you will feel that resistance. And what we tell our clients is, if when you're trying to use your new speaking style, whatever that is, slowing down, breathe, when you're trying to do it, if you don't feel resistance, it means you're actually not trying to do it. Right? If you don't feel any resistance in the beginning, it means you're probably speaking the same way you usually speak. If you feel resistance, it means you're trying to do something different. And your brain will try to justify why you don't need to do it because, like Farooq said, your brain wants to be efficient. So it just doesn't want to do it. Your brain will have that same justification around family and friends. Oh, they're my family and friends. I don't need to do it. I don't feel like doing it. Yes, you do, because that's how you build that muscle memory. So this is why we talk about immersion. I'll say this, and then we'll begin to move into some question and answer, and also want to share a couple of other things. Immersion. Right now, you have a current way of speaking, thinking, feeling, believing. Like Farooq said, you can't just do it on the side. You can't just practice this a little bit and then come back to it. Why? Because you have a current way that is a dominant way of speaking and thinking. In order to replace that, you have to build a more dominant way of speaking and thinking. So you can't do it on the side. You have to immerse yourself at some point, right? So think of it like a pier and a beach. You can wade out into the water, but at some point you got to jump all the way in, or else you're not going to get wet, right? Not fully wet. Or you can go to the pier and you can jump in and you can just get wet. Okay. But if you walk on the beach and you just keep your toes in or your ankles in, you're never going to fully get wet. At some point, you have to get all the way in. And the faster you do it, be it walking out, wading out, or jumping off the pier, the sooner you'll create that more dominant speaking style. So one of the reasons that some people never really make that transition, they constantly have to think about how they're speaking and use techniques and use tools, is because they never fully immersed. So the old speaking style is still wired in, and sometimes it's still dominant. If you want to make the new speaking style dominant, you have to immerse yourself. You have to use it all the time. That is the only way. All right. Okay, so one of the things that we wanted to share with you, we're going to paste a couple of links, is our virtual speech masters club. We just briefly tell you about it as we answer your questions. If you have any questions, either on YouTube, we're monitoring both YouTube and here, please ask your questions now while I'm speaking, and we'll get to them. Virtual Speech Masters Club, you get our complete self-study and some bonus content, our Wave Goodbye to Word course. You get the complete course. Included in your membership, you get to be with us every week. Now, there may be some weeks where Farooq is not able to make it, some weeks where I might be able to make it, but one of us will be there unless it's a holiday. We've changed our meeting times to Saturdays now, 12 noon Eastern time. Right? So we usually go anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours. The time does go by pretty quickly. Each person gets a chance to do an impromptu presentation to help you think on your feet. And if you're a member and you apply, you can do a planned presentation for 5 minutes. The impromptus are 2 minutes. We have roles, people that count ums, people that count likes, people that count your smoothness, people that count your structure. Our evaluation criteria is based on the Pro-90D speech system, which has been around now for more than 12 years, more than 12 years. I currently have over 52,000 Udemy students. So I've been around, and this has been around for a long time. Many people who take our course and work with us privately are doctors and engineers and scientists and lawyers. Very, very intelligent people who do their homework. They can take any course in the world. They can coach with anybody in the world. They choose us because they know it's science-based. They know it works. They know that it makes sense. So we want to encourage you that if you're not quite ready for coaching, then join the Speech Masters Club, because you'll get to get evaluation and feedback, not only from members, but from us. We give you, so look at it like a mini coaching session. We're going to give you that feedback briefly in each meeting. You can attend as many meetings as you want if you join for 6 months, as many meetings as you want for 6 months. Or if you join for 12 months, as many meetings as you want for 12 months. How much does it cost? It's only $120 for the 6 months, not every month. $120 at join as many meetings as you want. And you get the course, which if you buy it by itself, it's like $397. You get the course, you get other courses. We have training sessions that we do like this, but they're shorter inside each of the meetings. And you get to put into practice what you are learning in a real-time situation and get expert feedback. So we watch people from week to week. Actually, you watch people within a session improve their speech because you're getting real-time feedback. You're putting yourself under pressure. This is exactly what you need. This is what's been missing from Pro-90D for some years now. And so we've created this for you. It's super affordable. You get the course too. That's what we want you to know. You get the doggone course and you get to meet with us every doggone week. We've never done anything like this, right? So that's why I'm so excited about it. And that's why you need to join, because you can't beat it. You can get into the course, you start working on it, then you can attend on a Saturday and you can work on it. And yeah, you might get in there and you might mess up and you might not speak as well as you like. That's great. That's exactly what we want, because then we can help you kind of improve that immediately from week to week. So what do you think, Rick? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so I really think that you have said most of the stuff. And once again, you get the course as well. It's sort of, you get a taste of the coaching as well. You get expert advice right there. Most importantly, you get to use whatever you have been learning in real pressure, where all of the people are there, right? And you don't just get to speak when you have to give a speech, when you have to give a presentation. You also get to speak when you have to give feedback to people. You give feedback, you let people know that maybe this is something that you could have focused on, this is something that you could have focused on. Then you get the training as well. We have those impromptu speeches as well, planned presentations as well, real-time feedback as well. So you get to speak a lot, and most importantly, you get to meet with us every single week. Now, that is something which is great. So you have the course, you get to meet with us as well, and you get to use whatever you have been learning in real time pressure, and you keep enhancing. You join a meeting, you speak, you get some feedback that this is something that you can improve on, this is something that you can do. You come back in the next meeting, implementing that feedback, and you see that improvement. We have been seeing clients improve every single meeting, right? So that is something that we have started off late, maybe than we should have, but it's really great to see that we have. And you guys, now it's up to you guys to take advantage of that.
So Farooq, we have a question on YouTube, so I'm going to answer this now.
Mhm.
And it's a block on vowels. Is there any exercise to cure this or any other way to prevent such block? This is a common question. Remember, here at Pro 90D, we work with people who both stutter severely. Sometimes it's hard for them to even talk in an assessment session. The people who stutter situationally, where you won't see it, it's only in certain kinds of speaking situations. To people who don't stutter at all. We have many clients who don't stutter at all. They just want to improve their presentation skills, um, interviewing skills. We work with people specifically for interviews, meetings, and so forth. Just a whole range. So we get this question all the time, and I'm going to answer it in two ways. Number one, yes, we do have some exercises to help you with this. And those are going to be exercises. You're also going to learn techniques and strategies. But another part of our holistic program is changing your mindset and your identity. Because the more you think about and focus on and continue to tell yourself, I get stuck on vowel sounds or I get stuck on these vowels, right? Because you have in the past, you believe that you will in the future. And so you usually do. So we have to change your mindset, what you think in the moment, what you think afterwards, and your beliefs about you're being a person who tends to get stuck on vowel sounds. That being said, our modeling practice helps you to be able to say those vowel sounds because you're not thinking about it. Our free flow speaking exercise, which you get in the course, helps you to be able to speak and say those vowel sounds without thinking about it. Our proactive speaking skills, sometimes things like inflecting or emphasizing or airflow linking. These are all techniques and tools that can help you say those vowel sounds. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes those things will not work, right? They may work most of the time. They may work almost all the time. But some people find, well, they work inconsistently. Part of it is because you haven't been using your new speaking style all the time. And when you use your new speaking style all the time, not only does your speech smooth out, but you begin to change your mindset and your identity. So you stop thinking about speaking. You stop thinking about the first sound, the first words, those vowel sounds. You literally stop thinking about it. When you don't think about it and you're speaking with a flow, then you'll find that you don't really have problems with those vowel sounds. But if you did, there are times where I still get stuck, right? And if you do, you're still relaxed, you're still confident, you're still calm because you have a tool. And your brain will either automatically use that tool or you can consciously employ the tool and you keep going so it doesn't affect you. So the answer is yes, we do have exercises and techniques to help you, but we don't want you to solely rely on that because the other side has to do with changing your mindset and your identity. If you don't change those two things and you just rely on tools and techniques, then you will forever have to rely on tools and techniques, and they will be inconsistent. I'm just telling you. Have any other questions? I don't see any other questions. All right. So, guys, if you're watching this, if you're watching a replay of this, we're very excited to have you. We're going to try to do these at least twice a month. We'll be doing webinars on the other two Wednesdays, and we'll be doing lives. Sometimes we'll do Facebook lives, YouTube lives, and we'll have these. So come and bring your questions. We'll answer them as honestly as we possibly can. They'll also help us to create new lives and webinars like the questions that you ask. Remember, I've been doing this for over 12 years straight, working with people from around the world. Farooq has been doing this for a while. He was a student and a client. Now he's a coach. I have another gentleman who's going to be training as a coach because he's found success So we want you to go to our website, check out all the reviews. You can even go on YouTube. Look at the reviews. These are real reviews, real people. We've been doing it long enough where we have it down to a system, to a science. It's not easy, it's not fast, but it's easier and faster than anything else. It's easier and faster than anything else. But just imagine if you could ace your interviews, if you could make a presentation, if you can interact with people socially, if you could start doing that in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months. You've been struggling with your speech for decades, for years. Imagine in just a few weeks, a few months, you can start to speak smoother and start to do and say the things you want. I'm working with a guy who's in ministry, and he had a severe stuttering problem. Again, we work with people who don't stutter too. He has severe stuttering problem, pretty severe. Within a couple of weeks, he told me himself, he said, I haven't had push out words and make facials. I haven't had to do that since we started. I saw improvement in his speech in just a week. Like when I met with him that next week, he was speaking smoother. Met with him the next week, he's speaking smoother. Now, speech is not perfect, but the last meeting we had this past week, I only detected him get a little stuck. He didn't push out anything, a little stuck a couple of times. Imagine him going from pushing out words, making faces, making noises and sounds, to speaking smoothly within like a couple of weeks. Will it stick? Of course it'll stick because of the way our brain works. As long as he continues to get out and speak and use his new speaking style, it will become a habit. Okay. So I want you to know that if you're watching this and you want to accelerate your progress, you're going to want to work with us privately. It's the fastest way. You've seen people improve 10 times faster working with us than working on your own. Why? When you're working on your own, it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to pick and choose the things that you want, the lack of accountability. It's easy to get a little lazy and say, I'm not going to do this today. When you've invested your time and money, and it's an investment, you tend to stay on track. You'll improve way faster. But also because of our expert feedback, you don't know what you don't know, right? We know what you don't know, and we can point that out to you and help you focus using the 80-20 rule. It's very, very difficult for you to do that on your own. So we have a variety of different packages. You can talk to us about pricing. You can talk to us about payment plans. If you're a self-study student, we have self-study discounts. Farooq, if you can go ahead and put your booking link in there too. I put mine in there. So if someone wants to work with Farooq, you can do that. If you want to work with me directly, you can do that. But if you're a professional and you have interviews coming up or important meetings, you are going to want to work with us privately. Because when you invest your time and money, you get a return. We have so many people that sometimes within a month or less, sometimes more, they get their money back in that promotion, in that job, or in those sales. Like they almost immediately get their money back and more. And that investment is one that keeps on giving. Right? You receive a dividend for decades and decades to come, because now you're positioning yourself to be more confident, to be more influential, more persuasive, to earn more money, to go for the jobs that you like. So if you're not ready for coaching, jump into our Virtual Speech Masters Club. That might be a first step for you. If you've been watching us for a while and you have important stuff coming up, then you're going to want to engage us privately because it will accelerate your progress. Okay. All right. Anything else, Farooq, before we wrap up? Are there any other questions on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, I think there is one on YouTube.
I see a couple. I've tried different techniques, but I don't see changes. What are the best techniques? Farooq, why don't you take that one? I'm going to copy and paste it over here too. I tried different techniques, but I don't see changes. Paste that one. And then the next one is how I see there are two voices, the casual voice and presentation. It would seem off and awkward to practice your presentation, interview voice, and casual. Is there a workaround? Very good question. I will tackle that one after Farooq answers the first
All right, sure. So going with the first one or the second one, as we can say. So you said that you have tried different techniques and you haven't been seeing the changes in your speech. Now, there would be two major important reasons for that. The one thing is that the pro entity speech system is just not based on strategies and techniques to help you overcome stammering or stuttering. In fact, that's not even our goal. So, one reason might be that you're having the wrong goal in your mind. You are using strategies and techniques to not get stuck. And if you keep focusing on that, that is all you would get. Like, I'm using this so that I don't get stuck. I'm working on my speech so that I don't get stuck. So the goal has to be to become an excellent and amazing speaker. And for me, like there are many things, but this is something that sets the system apart. And this is something that takes the system to the next level, that it is not there to help you not stutter, not stammer. It is there to help you become an excellent speaker, right? And once you do that, the stuttering, stammering, old speaking style, disfluencies, getting stuck takes care of itself. So the goal has to be right. And then the second reason might be that you have not been doing it for a long period of time. Maybe you focus on one thing for some time and then you leave it off. Then you move your focus towards the next thing. Then you leave it off. Then you move your focus towards this thing. So you need to be consistently doing that. So there are strategies, there are techniques, there is also modeling. That is the foundation of this speech system. That is also incredibly important. If you don't do that, it might be harder for you and it might take longer for you to change your new speaking style. So, in short, maybe you have not been doing it consistently. You have not been doing all this stuff, modeling, speaking skills, proactive speaking skills, everything. And the next thing is that maybe you have the wrong goal in mind. You're focusing on how to not get stuck, how to use these strategies to not get stuck. Even the strategies that we use inside the system, the proactive speaking skills, they are to help you speak smoothly. They are to help you become an excellent speaker. And those are the speaking skills that excellent speakers use. So you are learning how to become an excellent speaker. In the process, the old speaking style, like we spoke about in this whole session, takes care of itself. So make your goal right and keep doing everything and keep doing that consistently. Yeah.
Let me just add one more thing to that. You may not be putting yourself under pressure trying to use those skills. So maybe you're just doing it by yourself. And like Farooq said, you're not doing it consistently. So then when you actually have a conversation with someone or you're in a meeting or in school or wherever, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Why? Because it hasn't wired itself in that kind of a pressure speaking situation. You have to actually put yourself under pressure and remind yourself to do it. That's where the virtual speech masters club can help, because you're actually putting yourself under pressure and you're learning how to relax in the moment you use the speaking style. This is one thing that we see that causes techniques and strategies stuff not to work. So everything that Farooq said, include this little part here about actually going out trying to use it, because if you don't, it's not going to work. Let me quickly answer this next question. Two voices, casual voice and presentation. Yes. So when you are in a conversation, you want to think about your new speaking style like a dial, dial it up, or you dial it down, but you don't turn it off. One of the things I had to learn is I would dial it up in a presentation or interview and turn it off in conversation. And so I would revert back to my old speaking style. This is 20 some years ago now. So I figured out, it took me a few years to figure this out. It doesn't have to take you this long because we're telling you now. Um, don't turn off your speaking style in casual conversations. Just dial it down. Well, Michael, what do you mean by dial it down? Well, for example, I'm not going to emphasize as much in a conversation. I'm not going to use as much body language, depending on who I'm conversing with, the excitement level. So I'm just going to dial everything down. I'm still going to use my hands. I'm still going to inflect. I'm still going to emphasize, just not as much, just not as dramatically as I would in a presentation. So that's the one thing that I can tell you, that in certain speaking situations, meetings, presentations, interviews, support conversations, you dial it up. In casual conversations, you dial it down, and you can figure out how to do it. What I did initially is I said, hey, use your presentation style in a conversation and then figure out how to dial it down, how to bring it down. So I would just go into a casual conversation. Yeah, exactly. And then I would just say, okay, I need to dial it down. I need to dial this down. And I figured it out. And you will figure it out too, but you have to just do it. Go in. So one way is to go in and say, I'm just going to use my presentation style or use my new speaking style. And you're smart enough where you'll figure out, I just need to dial this down a little bit. Don't turn it off. Okay, great. I hope that was helpful. I coached personally with Mike 11 years ago, and let me tell you, the system works. Just put it into practice what he asks you to do, and the tools are only there when you need to use them. All right, very good. Thank you for that. That's 11 years ago. Now, that doesn't mean that that person doesn't occasionally get stuck, just like I sometimes get stuck, probably Farooq gets stuck. But that person was 11 years ago, and this person is still able to speak smoothly or whatever. I didn't ask them to come in and say this. Their name is not even on there, but they said it because it's true. So once you imprint this new speaking style, then it will last you as long as you're out there using it. So thank you very much for that. I attended a speech therapy program in India, which also promoted speaking at a lower rate of speech with regular breaths. Problem with it was that I tend to lose my train of thought and sound mechanical. Sound mechanical, losing authenticity. Yeah. Okay. So let me just address that. Pro 90D is holistic. So we say slowing down and we talk about breathing. While it's an important part of the process and the system, it's definitely not the only part. When you think about modeling, you think about free flow speaking, you think about all the proactive speaking skills Farooq mentioned in terms of helping you become an excellent speaker. So it's not just about stuttering. So this is not speech therapy, even though some of the techniques we use, speech therapists use, and other programs use. This is not speech therapy. This is to help you become an excellent speaker. And all the skills we have, as well as modeling, designed to help you do that. That takes care of the problem of sounding mechanical. I hope Farooq doesn't sound mechanical. I don't think I sound mechanical. Many, if not most of the people that go through our system, and when they practice modeling and they practice dynamic speech, they don't sound mechanical. So what you were learning was effective to a certain degree, but it's not the only thing. It's not the only thing that we do. It's just a small part of it. So even from the very beginning, we never teach you to sound mechanical, right? Everything we do always includes modulating your voice, modulating your pacing, right? Emphasizing. These are all things that great speakers do. So in Pro 90D, unless you choose to do it, you will not only will you not sound mechanical, people will tell you, you sound great. You sound good. We have clients who tell us, and they didn't believe it at first. They said, I'm a little skeptical of that, Mr. Michael. But after a few weeks or a month or two, someone comes to them from their job, their boss or a family member says, wow, your speech is really improved. Boy, that was a great presentation. That was really, really good. Unsolicited. People just notice it and come, and then people start to ask them to lead meetings or to give more presentations or take over this. They didn't believe this was true at first, but when it starts to happen, they go, Michael told us. So that's my long answer to your question or your comment about mechanical speech. But thank you. All right, Farooq. I think that's about it, right? Yeah. All right. We'll stay over as long as we need to during these live sessions to answer your questions. We will try to kind of finish up the core uh, content in about an hour or so, sometimes a little sooner, sometimes a little later, but we'll stick around to answer your questions. Very good questions. Yes, Farooq.
So something just that I would like to add towards it is that by slowing down, when we say slow down our speech, we don't mean drag your speech like this. So there is a difference between dragging your speech and slowing down your speech. So we slow down our speech by extending more, by breathing more, having to pause more, by emphasizing more words. And the main advantage to slowing down, it's not the only thing, but it's one of the most important things you can say. It helps you to develop a greater amount of control over your speech. When you're speaking fast, sometimes you feel that you are out of control. You're not in control of your speech. But when you start to slow down your speech, you start to get that control over your speech. And once you get the control over your speech, then you know what to change, what to work on, how to do this, how to do that. So that control has a huge role to play. So slowing down, and we don't mean slow down like this. So there's not just extending, but there is blending as well. There's flow as well. You're extending your words and you're also connecting your words together. You're maintaining the flow. You're not chopping off your words. So there is a whole lot of stuff, and slowing down is just one part of the system. And it does not mean to drag your speech, but just to slow down by breathing and extending more, especially to give you a greater amount of control. So just wanted to add that.
Very good. Thank you. All right, let's see. One last question. Do you think neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis can help curing stuttering? So as Farooq said, the goal should not be to cure stuttering. I know that's what you want, and maybe one day there will be something, and maybe there have been people who have been cured. Our goal, however, is a bit different because we feel like it's more useful. You can not stutter and suck at speaking, right? There are lots of people who are just not good communicators. They don't stutter at all. They've never stuttered, but they just suck. They're not good, or they're just average. So our goal is if you're going to do the work, you can actually do the work and become an excellent speaker or above average speaker. So that should be the goal. Cure is a tricky word. If you set an expectation to completely get rid of or cure, more than likely you're going to be disappointed. You're going to waste a lot of money and time looking for solutions. Hypnosis absolutely can help. NLP absolutely can help. However, once you dive into our system, you'll find all of that is actually included to one degree or another, to the degree to which it would work in our particular system. So you'll find some elements of those things in the system. With hypnosis, you're talking about taking your brain waves to a certain level where you're able to receive commands or affirmations, right? So it's getting you into a state of mind, into a relaxed state of mind, where your brain can now receive these commands so that when you come out of that state and you're in your more active state, your subconscious or your unconscious mind now has this new programming that starts to happen automatically. So we've had people who have come in and done hypnosis, and what they found, generally speaking, is that it can wear off. Right? It can wear off. So I'm not saying that that's what will happen to you, or that that's what always happens, but that's been our experience, that if the person only did that, and then some months later, several months later, years later, something happened, they became anxious, then what happens is their identity can start to kick in. So once they face a certain stressor, their old identity, if their old identity is still present, it can kick in and kind of undo all the work that you did with that hypnosis or that NLP. What we're doing is we're rewriting, we're overriding your identity, your belief about yourself, your thought process, and your speech. And it's happening on an unconscious level as well. So you get the benefits of hypnosis, but you also get the benefits of changing your identity, your mindset, and your speech. So answer to your question is yes, those things can help, but it may not be holistic enough. It may not. I'm not saying it's not, just saying it may not be. All right. Great. All right, so let's wrap up. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for attending. We'll be doing an official webinar next week, and we'll be meeting this Saturday. So visit the links that we've put in here and check us out. You can visit us once for free. Then after that, you'll need to join. Remember, it's only $120 for 6 months, and you get the course. So I look forward to seeing you. For those of you that want to accelerate your progress, you already know that this works. Somebody on YouTube just says, hey, I worked with Michael 11 years ago, and this really works. It does work. Okay. Then go ahead and book your free session with me and put the links there. All right. We'll see everybody next time.
All right. See you all. Bye.